Dear Alexis, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a real pleasure to be with you, and it is very daring to invite someone that is not a banker to this meeting and to speak about what is going on in the European Commission and in Europe when it comes to the digital transformation of economy and society. And I'm very happy to do so. And as Alexis said, we are living a revolutionary change in terms of our society behaves and our economy is shaping. And the change is profound, and some of the signs you see in terms of globalization, crises which are an origin which is not structural, are probably just the symptoms of a much more profound change of the environment, which sometimes we call the fourth industrial revolution. And this change should not be underestimated in terms of what it means for the European and the world democracies, what it means for the world stability, what it means in terms of the future of the financial sector, of course. But of course, it's not just limited to the financial sector. Every sector is involved in this transformation: the automotive sector, the health sector, the public services sector. You name one, and you'll see that digital is shaping in a very profound way the future. The European Commission has made the digital single market a flagship policy. It's among the 10 priorities of the European Commission in terms of shaping the future of Europe. And so it's side by side with the Capital Market Union in terms of delivering a true borderless digital single market. And of course, it builds on the successful single market adventure that started 20 years ago. Far from being completed, but clearly still the most unique experience of the world. The digital single market is a market that allows the access to 530 million customers. And the digital single market by GDP is the largest of the world. So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for everyone that is in the European continent. It's a challenge at the same time. Let me go through this, if I can manage this machine. Yes. So in terms of where we stand, Europe, of course, you can have a sort of a gloomy picture of where Europe is. But at the same time, we possess some basic fundamental assets to be competitive. Of course, we have to do much more about our education system, and we have to invest more. But of course, we also start from a very good base. We have the capability to invest in a world-class digital infrastructure. Now, seen from the investor's point of view, digital also is a fantastic opportunity. Our estimate is that to realize what we call the gigabit society, which means every citizen connected at high speed to the network, which is the bread and butter if you want to deliver advanced services, for instance, in the financial sector or the insurance sector. To connect every citizen, the bill is 500 billion euros, so not exactly coffee money. And then if you also look at digitizing the classical industry, if you look at digitizing the health sector, the government sector, then we are speaking about trillions of euros of investments. So besides transforming the investment, the banking, the insurance sector, there's a clear investment opportunity, and Europe, to a certain extent, with its complexities, can be a promised land. Last Thursday, we have displayed our Digital Economy and Society Index. It's the index that every year measures the performance of Europe and the European digital single market. We do this every year, and we use several indicators, some 60 indicators coming from all sectors. And this year, for the first time also, we show the comparison, we have showed the comparison with the world. Now, this is the result. It's a composite index that measures human capital, investment, connectivity, services, banking services, government services. And you see that when you take Europe 28, the message is still there's some work to do. Now, interesting is that if you take the top 5 countries in Europe, Denmark, Sweden, the Netherlands, Estonia, then you will see, and of course Switzerland, by the way, is top in the European continent, you will see that these countries are top in the world in this index. So we have a situation in Europe which is not even. And what is the meaning of a digital single market is that those which have already entered this transformation, that have a story to tell, should tell the other. Because, of course, we are very proud of the progress in Denmark, but Denmark alone cannot make the difference in the world. Denmark, in the digital single market, together with others, can make the difference. So basically, we see that we have assets, but we need still to build on a strong, much stronger asset base. For instance, when it comes to investments in basic technology, the technology that we've needed for all the things which allow the financial sector to be transformed, take basic encryption technology, cybersecurity, big data, supercomputing, Europe is lagging behind. Europe is not investing enough. We have lost ground in supercomputing through the years, and now will be tough to come back. We came late to the big data revolution, and our excellencies in universities, in research, are not exactly in the area where the change is needed. So there's a displacement of skills, which is very pronounced. The other element which is important is about the rules. Modernizing the European rules is not simple. We have, in the first 2 years of the digital single market, we have proposed to change basically all the rules about the digital economy. We have presented the reform of the telecom rules, we have presented the reform of the copyright rules, we have presented the reforms of the audiovisual rules, of the e-commerce rules. So every single sector which is about digital transactions has undergone into a regulatory scrutiny and a review. Of course, rules are not just made to entertain Brussels, the Brussels institution in doing institutional engineering. Rules are the essence to build the fundamentals of a market that functions. And the fundamental of the market that functions you see here. And let me say, now, slowly but steadily turning to the financial sector, that will be my second part of my little speech. Europe builds on a strong asset base. I said it in general, but this is even more true for the financial sector, in terms of credibility, in terms of stability, in terms of brand reputation, in terms of asset base, client base. So this, whatever you define to be a financial institution, a bank, an insurance of the future, these are assets which are difficult to replicate. But of course, others are quickly entering the market and transforming in the market in a dramatic way. So can Europe catch up in this? Well, let's see in this very complicated chart, which I'm sure you cannot see. You should never do this kind of things in a presentation. But the important thing is the scatter here. Now, the scatter is about, on one axis, you have how much e-commerce is diffused in Europe. And on the other axis, you have how much e-banking is diffused in Europe. These are the very last data we presented last week. Well, of course, first of all, you see more or less this correlation. I mean, the more e-commerce, the more e-banking. But the other thing, and the message of this chart, so that the numbers are not that important, is Europe is really spread. I mean, you spread out, all the member states are spread out. So you go on the very top in Denmark, and then you go to the very bottom, Bulgaria, Romania, and you see there's quite a spread. So getting to the single market, it's a tortuous and complicated road because of this. And basically, if you do not convince the Europeans to trust the electronic payment systems, to trust e-banking, to trust the new systems in terms of investment advice, especially, of course, in the retail banking sector, you will not do the quantum leap that Europe needs. So there's here a demand factor, which is also very important. So building a digital Europe means also having digital citizens which are ready to embrace this revolution. Now, when it comes to the financial sector, Commissioner Oettinger last year announced that he would actually create a roundtable with all the financial sector and deepen what are the issues that the financial sector is facing. And this was done. It was done together with DG FISMA. We have organized a roundtable. We have heard the concerns of the financial sectors and the proposals from the financial sectors. And as a result, we have formed a joint task force, DG Connect, DG FISMA, to actually analyze one by one the issues you have presented to us and start giving answers. But of course, the answers must be given together. Now, one thing you suggested is to have a EU framework for experimentation, sandboxes. I mean, where on sort of real life, you could actually experiment much more daring ways of doing fintech. And I think this is a very, very interesting idea. And especially looking at blockchain technologies, other incoming technologies such artificial intelligence, together in a controlled environment, we can actually introduce these innovations and try to advance quite quickly in this direction. So when looking, for instance, at the next financial framework for Europe, so where Europe should invest in terms of putting, priorities in terms of spending the European money, we are looking very, very carefully on what we can do in terms of sandboxes, in terms of advancing and breaking new avenues. And there are many, many different things from, as I said, products which might be close to the market to things which are a little bit more far-fetched, but coming, like, for instance, quantum encryption. You asked, when it comes to cloud and data, first of all, to have a level playing field. And for us, the translation of a level playing field means treating the same situation in the same way when it comes to regulation and when it comes to what kind of intervention, if there's a need of intervention from the public side. The reason why there's not a level playing field is that, of course, the digital evolution has been very turbulent, very disruptive. So the rules of the past are, of course, for the traditional sector, whilst new actors have less rules. This is rather physiological, I must say. I think we are catching up. We are understanding better what it means access to data in both directions when when the banking sector wants to have access to data which are in the sphere of the new players, such as the over-the-top players, and vice versa. I think through open APIs, through data portability, through fairness in cloud contracts, we can actually achieve a lot in terms of level playing field. And of course, new actors should have the same responsibilities that existing actors face. This is a very important rule which we must defend also not only inside Europe, but on the world arena. You asked to do more on cybersecurity, and indeed, I mean, we have established a 500 million euros platform with the cybersecurity industry to sustain R&D. That was done in July last year. And this year, we are going to present a revised cybersecurity package, which is the new mandate for the Cybersecurity Agency, ENISA, and new issues such as certification and labeling. One thing you asked, which I completely support, is the idea that there should be more harmonization in terms of cyber rules, because when there's an accident, the financial sector is bound to make a number of notifications, and probably, and I would say surely, it's necessary to have a much more harmonization when it comes to notifying incidents, but also much more transparency about this, because that's an asset for the whole sector. Blockchain, I already commented. I think we do not think that blockchain will solve every problem. I think advancements you are introducing in terms of, for instance, instant money transfer can already be achieved without blockchain technologies, but blockchain can do much more. And also what is intriguing about blockchain is that we are looking at blockchain in other sectors, such as personal identification, e-health services. So the knowledge that the financial sector has about blockchain technology can be leveraged in many other sectors where trusted identification is an issue. Skills is the challenge of the next decade and probably of the next 50 years. We have a perfect misplacement of skills in Europe when it comes to digital. This is especially true in the middle working class. And of course, this is not just a challenge when it comes to the transformation of the sector, but it's a social challenge. Because if the path toward digitization of the banking sector or the insurance sector, especially the retail banking part, is not sustainable from the social point of view, the backlash will be dramatic in terms of also what it would mean, it would imply for the stability of our democracies. So the mismatch of skills has to, first of all, be tackled with making sure that youngsters can access much more ICT training, new technologies, that the working population can be retrained, but at the same time, this misplacement needs to have also answers from a modern social policy. The last point is where I want to report success. That's why I left it as a last point. You asked to do much more in terms of public key identification. And for sure, this is an asset for Europe. Because compared to siloed platforms that you see in terms of over-the-top payment system, the European banking sector is used to work in an open way and to exchange and to use, I mean, customers are used to the idea that they can change, they can select. And public ID, it's the perfect tool to maintain this. And public ID, it's the asset of Europe. There's no other place in the world where public services are so interoperable. There's no other place in the world where banking services are so interoperable. You have developed the technologies, and together with public authorities, that could be a serious advancement here. Next year, the eIDAS regulation will be coming into full force. That means that public eID need to be interoperable. A Danish eID must be recognized by the Spanish authorities and vice versa. there's no obligation for the private sector, but we have, following your recommendation, we have done serious steps in this respect. We want to establish platforms that interoperate between the financial sector and the public sector in terms of public ID, and some examples are already around Europe, but not much cross-border. And the second point is through the changes we are proposing to the money laundering directive, we are really facilitating the use of EID as a means for identifying customers and ultimately to open online an account and having the same trust of seeing the customer, which is one of the requirements of good banking practices, also online. We believe that really fintech, together with the change in the automotive sector, health sector, government sector, is one of the leading sectors that will change the digital future of Europe. That's why the Commission has decided to now launch a public consultation. So we will be consulting you on what are the issues. So we have done this groundwork in the last year together, and now we open up to a public consultation to deepen more this. So to conclude, we really welcome the work we have been doing together. I really thank the opportunity to be here, and thanks again for having invited me. And I hope you will respond to our public consultation, and we will continue working together. Thank you very much.